How much is too much money to pay for a top defensive tackle in the transfer portal?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Would you pay $500,000 for a quasi-starter, maybe a guy that's a backup at defensive tackle out of the transfer portal? How about $750,000 or more for a starter that's a defensive tackle in the transfer portal? Hi, my name is Brian Smith, and today's show about Locked On Seminoles and all the different things getting ready to happen with the transfer portal that starts on Tuesday, April 16th, is going to probably overwhelm you because I know it's overwhelming me. Some of these numbers, some of the things I'm being told give me a lot of pause for not only Florida State, but for college football because it is not sustainable. You can find this podcast wherever you get them for free: Odyssey, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, you name it. And it is part of the awesome Locked On Network, your team each and every day. And this podcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Make every day more. These days, every potential new hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Now, here's the backstory, and I can't give any names, any hints, anything, so don't ask questions, email me, or anything else. And it is not about Florida State. This is something that I obtained here recently in the last 24 hours. There was a guy that wasn't going to enter the portal, defensive tackle, good player to school, but not a guy, not like that going to go in the draft kind of player after next season, etc. Offered $500K by a school. Again, he is not a top guy and still offered $500,000 to jump in the portal and transfer. There is nothing good about that. It's one thing for a guy to get a little bit of something here or there, but $500,000 for a guy that's not a dude? How desperate are certain teams, and what is it coming from? What are the NIL collectives like, and how would somebody come up with that kind of money for not a top-line guy? These are crazy numbers. I hope that is fabricated, but who it's coming from, there's just really not much chance of that. So I'm concerned about this. Hear me out. If Florida State was in a different situation, and this year at D-tackle, they're pretty good. They're not dominant, but you got Farmer, you got Daryl Jackson, you got Big KJ is coming along. I mean, they got some decent players. Or KJ Sampson might start at some schools, but Florida State, he's going to be able to come along a little slower. Grady Kelly, the kid from Colorado State's had some success. He's a good backup. Florida State's not in a bad spot. Daniel Lyons, another kid that they brought along, they like. But what if they had a guy injured or something, or what if they're just really worried and they wanted to test the waters? How deep do you think Mike Norvell and his staff would go when they hear numbers like that? My guess is they'd get back out and they'd find a towel, because I think that's too steep. I think there are some teams that are going to overpay, like Ole Miss went all in on the portal this year. If it's $500,000 for a backup, I can only imagine what they pay for a few of the guys that they got. They got the kid from A&M, who's the best D-tackle in college football, quite frankly. And they got a few other guys that are really top-notch, too, from around college football. I'm curious, but I don't know if Ole Miss can ever really win a national title or not, but Kiffin's going to try. Good for them. But this is not a good sign. Florida State's NIL, to my knowledge, like the Battle's End, etc., while getting better, is not going to match what Miami has, what Southern Cal has, what Texas A&M has. And there's some special situations for some other schools, like Notre Dame sets up really good stuff for their grad transfers. They don't pay kids out of high school direct, but their grad program kills it. How much money those kids make, especially the quarterbacks making like 7 figures. It's hard. So if they're trying to get this kid in Florida State, is how do you do it? Like A&M or Miami or something. It's difficult. These programs have different levels. If you're all competing for the same thing, but not everybody's got the same wallet, especially at these critical spots, that gives me a lot of pause moving beyond 2024. I had no idea when I heard $500,000. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I asked, again, like, 500, you're sure? And I was like, yes. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Because, again, not a top player. Role player, starter, maybe a couple times a year because the main guy is banged up, is probably the better way to define this player. And again, I can't divulge any more on who it is, but if Florida State was involved with this, I'd be like, they're not going to get this kid. And I have no idea if the kid wants to leave the program he's at. I heard he's happy there. He's just not dominant. He's just a solid college football player that's going to get a degree and go get a job. But again, it's about supply and demand. And when teams are really trying to get something because they were gutted by the draft, they lost a kid to injury, combination of things, coaching change, and guys transferred out, whatever, sometimes they get desperate. And boosters are not very patient. But it's their money. If they want to dump it in, they want to dump it in. With that said, this is just my take on it. I think Florida State, and this go for any team, should be very careful about dumping money in on a player that's not a top 3 round kind of guy, because you need exposure, you need lights, you need NFL coming, like articles and stuff on ESPN, on Fox, on ABC, on every freaking network saying players going to Florida State, player will be drafted, rinse and repeat, nonstop until they leave. Guys are just okay, and you're paying $500,000? That's absurd. Where in the world would somebody get to the point they're that desperate, even if I'm right, and it's because of, injuries and different things at a school? Like, you're not going to win the title next year anyway. Why would you drop $500,000? How dumb are you? To each their own. But I found that to be rather absurd. So let me give you an example here, though. And we'll talk about this more in just a moment. But think about the depth chart at whatever position you want at Florida State. Whatever one you want. I could use D-tackle and stick with it, like Dale Jackson and Joshua Farmer. Those are 2 pretty darn good starters. Florida State's not in a terrible spot by any means at D-tackle. But if they had an injury coming out of the spring game or something like that, and they were worried and they wanted to jump in, should they really drop $500,000 there? Or if it was at running back, at receiver, at offensive tackle, again, whatever spot. How much is too much because you're just emptying the kitty? And how much would you still have a chance to win a title when you're losing a top player and just getting a mediocre guy for $500,000? What is the logic there? Somebody educate me. I'd love your comments on YouTube, because where I got this, I'm very confident in the information, or I wouldn't even done this podcast. But I just thought that was really, really odd, because the schools involved that want him, they're really good programs, but I just don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. So how much money do they have, and how dumb are they? We'll talk about that a little bit more here after the break, but the transfer portal opening up, this is something we got to talk about. Ranking priorities, talking about Florida State's depth chart and the spring game. That's all next here on Locked On Seminoles. All right. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals faster for your team and for free. I've used it to get jobs. I've used it to look for interns. It is an easy app to navigate, and you can also find a way to get to people just through direct messaging. That's something that I've done. I've stayed in contact with people that in the business world for years and years through LinkedIn. I think it's pretty simple. And if you want to set up a job opportunity or an internship or something like that you're looking for, most people get a hit within 24 hours on LinkedIn Jobs. It's not just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to a perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're looking anywhere else besides LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So where does Florida State have a little bit of a gap as we get ready for the spring game and everything getting ready to happen with Florida State? Is there a gap anywhere? Is there any place that the Noles should be looking to spend some money? Again, still don't think $500,000 is a good idea heading into the transfer portal. There are a lot of opportunities to look at this, but I think the best way to examine it, it's just to be flat honest. Go through each position. This is what I do. Do you have a first or second round pick? And just go through every single position. Is that a high measure? Yes. But that's pretty much how you would do it at 2 or 3 schools, and we know which ones they are. Florida State's not quite to that level. They're on that next tier, but I think they have a chance to be really good because the continuity they have. They got more guys to come back than I thought they would. They've gotten some really good transfers, of course, like Marvin Jones Jr. coming in. That's huge. They needed more pass rushers. Now they've got a chance. But at the same time, where would you rank your biggest concerns? DJ's at quarterback. That's probably going to be the guy. We've rehashed that 30 times on this show because everybody wants to talk about quarterback. I ain't touching it today until otherwise proven. DJ Uiagalelei will be Florida State's 2024 quarterback starter. Prove me wrong. But how much is too much at other spots? These are the three that I'm most concerned about, and you can take it however you want, but this is my concern. The first one might surprise you a little bit, maybe not, but it just depends on your perspective and how much confidence you have in players. I say wide receiver. And when I say that, I don't mean that as a position group. I mean flat out going out and getting a straight up stud, another Keon Coleman. They got one last year in him, but at the same time, is there going to even be another guy like that in the portal? Keandre Lambert-Smith, kid from Penn State, entered the portal. We'll get into him in just a moment. I want to just kick the tires on that name for a second. You may not follow Penn State, but I got some of his stats pulled up and some insights from Zach Sako, a guy at Penn State, a grad who covers Penn State and runs Locked On Nittany Lions. Be careful what you get out of the portal too. So if you could get a really, really good player at receiver, is he worth $500K? Talking about a guy go gets 50 balls, 800 yards and 8 scores. Something, is that $500K? $700K? What's it worth? How much can Florida State spend with the battles in? How much would other boosters anonymously chip in, or maybe just make a phone call to the athletic director? I don't even know how that works. How much would it take? And would you have anything left for other needs? These are the kinds of questions that you have to go through. It's complex, and I honestly don't think it's a lot of fun, but that's the deal with college coaching and ADs now. It's not really about football. It's just about talent acquisition. There's too much transferring because of the stupidity with no penalty for kids being able to transfer multiple times without sitting out. By the way, that is a terrible rule, but at the same time, that's the way it is. So you got to be prepared at all times at every single spot on your roster. I just think they shouldn't take a transfer receiver. It's got to be a legit, flat out, going to start, better than what we got, no doubt about it kind of guy. That's hard to get. And right now, from everything that people I've talked to, Florida State does not have a number one unless it ends up being Malik Benson. He wasn't dominant at Bama, but he's had a really good spring for the Noles. I just need to see it on the field. I don't know how that's going to translate, but he can really run, man. We knew that coming out of junior college. Didn't work out at Bama. That doesn't mean it won't work out at Florida State. And DJ can chuck it. He's got a cannon for an arm, so I'm kind of curious about that. But if he's really good, could you imagine what Florida State would be like if they got one more guy? Maybe it's Hakeem develops. They could get lucky. I think that's the most likely option if they're going to have two really good players currently on the roster. But I would still like another guy that's flat out proven. There's no question marks. He's coming in with 50-plus career catches, and he has deep speed. I know I'm asking a lot, but that's my number one. Number two might surprise you a little bit. This is the one in particular that I think some people might be a little off, and I don't think this is very realistic either, but a flat-out NFL offensive tackle. Make them either put Byers on the bench or he moves to guard, or at least there's a competition. I just think he gets beat too much against top competition. He's good, especially in the run. Like, he's dominant, but I think they could use that, or at least compete with him. You can't have enough offensive tackles, and DJ is not as mobile as some of the other quarterbacks that have played at Florida State in the last 20, 30 years. If he goes down, you're going to have a true sophomore that may not be ready. I'm not saying Brock Glenn doesn't have talent, but if you have bad offensive tackle play or a guy gets hurt, maybe Byers gets banged up in game 2, who knows? It's a little iffy. Having 3 or 4 guys is the way to go. They've got at least 3, I think, right now, but I'd like it to be 4 that you're confident with. If you've got depth there, you've got a hell of a lot better chance to make the college football playoff, or at least making the ACC title game. Third, and this one won't surprise anybody, but I think they've done a little better this spring. I feel better about it than I did going in. That's at linebacker. We all know they need help there. I just don't think it's hard to get linebacker. I would have ranked it number 1 in terms of, well, you got to at least get one. But I think they can get a serviceable player as opposed to they need a top receiver or a top tackle at the other spots, or it's not worth it. They have numbers. They need a freaking dude. Linebacker, I think they could be okay if they just got another guy that's a good player, play some special teams. Maybe he's good on third downs. Maybe he's a run stuffer. Whatever it is, they've already addressed it somewhat through the portal, and DJ Lundy is coming back. It's not a bad situation that Florida State's in. It could be a hell of a lot worse. Definitely could be a hell of a lot worse. So I think they're in a decent spot there, but it would be third. And if they could get a starter, obviously, that's what you're looking for. It would be great. If Florida State got anything else, it's just playmaker, a great corner. I mean, they just lost Greedy. Maybe a guy that comes in a corner, maybe another person kicks in to nickel, but I'm being greedy, no pun intended, because Florida State secondary is still going to be really, really good. Coming up next, I did watch some spring games already, and Florida State might be moving up my board a little bit after what I saw this weekend. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Seminoles. FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots, home runs, and slam dunks, all on the app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Also, it's Locked On NFL Mock Draft on April 17th at 7 p.m. That's coming up in 2 days on Wednesday night. You can find it Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on your streaming channel on YouTube, and it's free on Amazon's Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 o'clock to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft is on April 17th at 7 o'clock, streaming on Locked On Sports Today, your streaming channel on YouTube, or the Amazon Free Fire Channels app. All right, here's the final part. I watched Penn State and Ohio State this weekend, and I know that everybody tries to hide a little bit with their spring games. And I imagine when Florida State's game coming up, they'll do some of that as well. But it is appalling to me as it kind of fits into this. Penn State didn't go out and get enough help in the transfer portal. Ohio State got a bunch of it, including a quarterback, and he couldn't hit the barn. What is it exactly that we're talking about here? Because a lot of people, myself included, thought Florida State would be kind of second tier 5 to 8, somewhere like that, maybe just outside the top 10 if they have an injury, but they're going to be pretty good. But they wouldn't be like where Ohio State's at. Penn State's got a lot coming back on defense. They can just go up a little bit in offense, they'd be good. After seeing both those teams, I wouldn't be surprised. No kidding if Florida State ended up being better than both. Ohio State's got major quarterback issues. Offensive line's better, but it's just okay. And it also bothered me with Ohio State. They just did thud for pretty much the majority of the game. And I understand not wanting to get guys banged up. I do. In the spring game, if you have as much depth as Ohio State does, that tells me there's something wrong there. There's no way in hell Ohio State, with all their recruiting wins over the last 5 years, should be in the position where they're doing thud in a spring game for the vast majority of it. What's going on there? They were pretty close the last couple of years to winning a title. Yet at the same time, they're at that point. They're having struggles again at quarterback. They got a ton of receivers. They got running backs. They got tight end. They got all kinds of stuff. Defense might be the best in the country. They can't get a quarterback to fit in there. This is a little bit bizarre to me. Maybe I'm off, but whatever. And if you think it's bad for Ohio State, Penn State was so bad I couldn't watch half of it. That's a team that I thought would be at least taking a step up this year. Drew Aller is a returning starter. He's the third-year player. But as I mentioned a little bit ago, and I'll talk about him here in just a second, Keandre Lambert-Smith is entering the portal. He's a guy that's pretty talented, but he's not going to be a part of it. And again, I'll read his stats. It's hilarious how this just fell off and he all but quit on him. And they don't have anything going because they were throwing short screens, tunnel screens, hike and throw, like scared to death. And they've got some talent up front. after all the crap that their fans and quite honestly everybody in college football gave them last year because Penn State couldn't move the ball against the quality defense, like against Ohio State last year, they got 1 first down. It was the last one with about 30 seconds to go. They were 1 for 16. And the last one's the only one they got. Here's Keandre Lambert-Smith. He's a guy that ended up with a lot of catches. He had 53 catches last year, 673 yards, 4 touchdowns. But in the last 3 games, he had 2 catches. 2. He basically quit for 28 yards. Early in the year, 4 catches out of 6 targets, 8 out of 11, etc. 6 out of 11 against Ohio State's not terrible. But as the year went on, they got played better competition and their offense was vanilla. They were terrible. They get rid of the coordinator. New guys come in. Hours back, they're not that good still. They couldn't do anything operating. They had like 13 points or something like that. Florida State might end up in the playoff after all. If they can find a way to 10 wins, I think they got a shot. If you'd have asked me that before this weekend, I really didn't think Florida State was a playoff team. I really didn't. But I just thought they were like on the cusp. Seeing some of these other teams, hell, why not? Like Penn State was incredibly underwhelming. Incredibly underwhelming. I don't know what to say. Like defensively, they're really good. But their offense is so pedestrian, and I know they're hiding some stuff, but they just don't have any playmaking ability. There is no way in hell they're beating Ohio State next year. They could get beat by 30, even if Ohio State's quarterback play isn't good. At least their QB Will's a really good runner. Penn State, Drew Howard can't run. He's pretty much a pocket guy. That's sad when programs are like that. And as it relates to Ohio State in general, I just don't think they'll get over the top. Georgia, I think, is number 1. And I really don't think there's a number 2 team unless it's Texas. I got to see some of their spring to know the answer to that. But I haven't watched it yet, so we'll see. But this is a little more open college football season and a chance to make the playoff or the extended playoff for year 1 than I thought. Florida State might have a better chance because I even think Ohio State could lose a couple of games in the regular season. Quarterback play, they couldn't even hit Jeremiah Smith when he was open. I'm not seeing it out of them. This is a little more topsy-turvy, and the Noles might have a chance to get in after all. It is what it is. Once again, though, the question of the day, and if you want to comment, I'd love to see what you have to say. I'll answer you on YouTube. How much would you pay for a top defensive tackle? With the baseline being my story that I got is a backup at a school, kind of a quasi-starter. He plays a little bit. Was offered $500K to get in the portal. I just want you to think about that as we go into tomorrow. We'll have another great episode of Locked On Seminoles on Tuesday. Until then, everybody have a great day. Take care.